All right, we are live Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Guys, it is our final Q&A of the season. Hard to believe. And so video producer yesterday asked me who is coming on the show with you tomorrow. And I said, damn it, we started with Adam King as our first guest, and that's who we're ending with. And so here he is, Kingy, all the way from Australia. How are you, sir?
Very good, mate. Very good. Happy to be working from home. We've got a nice long weekend coming up this weekend. So we've got next Monday is a holiday here where I live. So excited to have a 3-day weekend just on the horizon.
What is the holiday, and what will you be doing for your extended break from work?
So the holiday is it's Canberra Day. So I live in Canberra or near Canberra, but I work in Canberra. I don't live there, but it's just a day off. I don't know why they do it, but every year at this time of year we get the Monday off. And what will I be doing? I'm not 100% sure, but there's a decent chance I'll be taking my son to see Dungeons and Dragons. They've got an advanced screening here, and so I'll probably be taking him to the movies.
And no more Sunday trips to the dump, I assume?
Now, there is another one coming up, but I will postpone that as long as I can.
For people that are watching this show that are not in America, Kingy and I had a lively conversation last week where we talked about days that the dump is open. So in America, at least where I am, the dump is open Monday through Saturday. Nothing happens on Sunday. And he said for him, it's only open on Sunday. So, all right, guys, let's jump into the fantasy questions here. We don't need to be talking about trash pickup and disposal. Here we go. Rest of season, hold Wiseman or all about that Basie? I know who I'm rolling with, but who do you like?
Oh, look, despite the fact that he's probably not going to play as many minutes, I'm going to go Basie here. I just think he does more in less time. He gets some defensive stats. He's fun. So yeah, I think Basie pretty comfortably actually.
Yeah, Basie, potato. He's going to be the guy, right? It's not going to be James Wiseman. Wiseman gives you a lot of these kind of empty calorie stat lines. He doesn't rack up a ton of defensive assists. He's not an excellent, field goal percentage for a big man. And Basie, we saw the other day, Zach Collins was out with, quote unquote, undisclosed, which, they're tanking. They're trying to lose right now. And obviously so is Detroit because they have everybody and their grandmother on the injury report. But yeah, as you mentioned, Basie does a lot more with a lot less minutes. And there's a good chance that his minutes tick up as the season goes on. All right. Arlo Jabari for Eason. Thinking about dropping Naz Wiseman for Basie. My playoffs start next week, 16-team points league. So are you going to be getting nasty or are you going to be going for Basie? What do you think?
In a points league, it's probably slightly different. My thinking here, because Wiseman could get you sort of 15 points, 10 rebounds, and nothing else. But in a points league, that's not terrible. I don't know. Naz Reid's been interesting. He's still sort of playing, 16, 18 minutes. Has been racking up stats, but I'm not convinced it sticks. I think the Wolves are starting to look better. Gobert's looking good alongside Conley. So there hasn't been any mention of that injury. What did he have? What was Gobert's injury? A calf injury or something that he had for a few weeks there. No mention of that, so I'm assuming he's healthy. So I'd probably drop Naz Reid here just because I think Wiseman, if he's playing 25, 26 minutes a game in a points league, he's not too bad.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I think Basie is the move. I think if we're talking Wolves, though, I would the elephant or the cat in the room here is Karl Anthony Towns coming back this season? Are we going to see him? And fantasy managers out there, you dropped him a long time ago, right? Or is he still languishing on your IL spot? I mean, what are we here with Karl Anthony Towns? And Kingy, when do you think we're going to see him back?
Yeah, look, I haven't seen him hit waivers in any of my leagues, so I'm assuming that people have just got him in their IR spot and they've stuck with him there. When's he coming back? I don't know. Has there been an update? I can't tell because I don't have him on a team, so I'm not sort of following him super close. I'm just having a look at what the latest up. I don't think we see him this week at least. What that takes us to mid-March. I don't know. Fantasy playoffs should be starting to wrap up now. I'd be okay with dropping him because I think even if he does come back, say next week, he's not going to play back-to-backs. He's going to be limited. So unless your fantasy playoffs don't start for another week for some reason, I think I'd be okay with dropping him if you have to.
Yep, I totally agree with you there. All right, moving on from somebody with a really high hello. All right. Would you drop a 3-3 game weeks like Fultz for another point guard with 4 and 4 game week 22 and week 23? So, I mean, without getting into which specific players, I think this comes down to, relative value, right? So if you somebody like Markelle Fultz, 3 games, getting somebody that's very close in value to Markelle Fultz that'll give you 4 games, absolutely. If you're dropping Markelle Fultz and, God love him, I'm an alumni of West Virginia, but you're not dropping him for Javon Carter if he has 4 games, right? It's not going to be just a 1-for-1 here. It has to be, the talent has to be very close. Otherwise, you're going to roll with the better player. Kingy, do you have a different take on that?
No, I agree there. I think, and chance, as you said, if you're getting someone close in value, then maybe, but I doubt you're going to get anyone close to Fultz off your waiver wire. Unless someone's sort of had that same idea and they've dropped someone who hasn't got many games this week. But I think this, looking at this a bit more broadly, I think if you are considering, say, dropping a fringe player or a back-end sort of player who has 3 games for someone who has 4 games, have a look at who they play for, what their schedule is, because as we're seeing already, teams are starting to rest players on back-to-backs. James Harden is questionable today. So we're getting injuries just pop up, these sort of random injuries. So have a look at who the team is that they play for and sort of whether you think they're going all in and they're going to play their guys. Because just because someone has a 4-game week doesn't mean they're going to actually play in all 4 games.
Absolutely. We saw that last week from Chris Middleton, actually sat the second leg of both back-to-backs for Milwaukee. All right. And speaking of Milwaukee, look, it's as if I set it up. Is it time to drop Big Bobby P, Crazy Eyes himself? He's a drop for me, man. What do you think? Are you holding on to him?
No, I'm okay with moving on. I've seen him pop up in a couple of my leagues and I haven't picked him up. So he's not that enticing at the moment. So I'm okay with moving on from him. Although in saying that, Giannis is out today. So, I'm pretty sure he's out. Did I read that? Let me double check. Just waking up.
I thought he was probable today.
Giannis has been downgraded to out.
If I'm not mistaken. Oh, wow. Okay.
So both he and Drew Holiday are out today. So if you are going to drop Bobby Portis, don't do it today.
Okay. All right, good call. See, this is why I brought you on, man, to read these injury reports that I missed. All right, from Shaq 2K, what's going on with Jarrett Allen? Is he turning into a drop? I don't think so. He's had a couple of stinkers. I mean, I'm looking at last night's I don't know if you got a chance to watch that game last night. I let my boys stay up the last 2 nights, that double overtime game from Boston. And then last night we watched the overtime game with Cleveland. It was awesome. Jared Allen, 4.6 rebounds, 3 assists, no defensive stats last night. He stunk last night from a fantasy. But we're not dropping this guy. I mean, 2 out of his last 3 games have been nothing with the points and rebounds, but every other game getting either a double-double or multiple stocks. And that's not a guy that you're dropping.
No, God, no, I wouldn't be dropping him. I'm assuming last night, I didn't see the game because sadly I had to work yesterday, but I'm assuming that they just went small. There was no Horford, no Rob Williams. So I'm assuming that Celtics just went small and Nets probably went small to match up with them. So.
Yeah, it was an interesting game last night because at least from when I was watching, I about midway through the third, and we watched till the game. Mobley and Allen there, and Luke Cornett on, but I'm having off the boards. He was doing his patented stance and wave his hands up in the air type of thing. It was an interesting game. All right. Enough with this Cavaliers talk. Do not drop Jarrett Allen.
No.
Let's move on here. Actually, this is a good time. I'm going to go ahead and ask a question I got asked on Twitter. So I get asked, I have 7 moves for the week. Haven't used any yet. Should I drop Bruce Brown with 3 games left for Bagley is my other streaming option, but he plays tonight? Or should I drop Brown to pick up Reggie Bullock? So this is a pretty lengthy question, but let's just start from the top. What do you think about Bruce Brown for this week? Are you excited by him? Is he somebody that you're going to keep? Or would you drop him for any of the guys mentioned? Kyle Anderson, Javon Carter, Marvin Bagley, Reggie Bullock, and then just streamingly the rest of the week?
Well, if Kyle Anderson's available, I'd be picking him up. I'd have him easily over Bruce Brown. I mean, Bruce Brown, we know what he can do, but Reggie Jackson has cut into his playing time a little bit. They're basically splitting minutes, sort of getting 22 to 24 each. Yeah. I'd probably have Bagley over him as well. Bullock, maybe not Bullock, but I think Bagley and Kyle Anderson, I definitely have both of them.
All right. And then which hairstyle do you prefer, Jarrett Allen or Reggie Bullock? This one's coming from me.
Jarrett Allen for me.
Yeah, I like Allen. I like the old school afro. I think it looks dope. All right. Yeah. Moving on here. Thoughts on Oladipo for the rest of the week? What are we thinking about Vic?
He was pretty good, I think, in the last game. I think when I did my my nightly wrap and I was going through the box scores and stuff, it looks like the Heat lent on their bench quite a bit in yesterday's game. So prior to that, though, Oladipo hadn't been doing much. So I think you could consider sort of streaming him in if you wanted to, but I wouldn't look at yesterday's game as what to expect every night.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Don't be chasing yesterday's 22-point performance. Atlanta was really, really, really bad defensively yesterday. Okay, so from the question earlier, we have some clarification. Should I drop Fultz with his 3 games for Chris Dunn? What are we thinking about this?
It's actually a pretty good question. If I could be certain that Dunn was actually going to play in all those games, then I'd potentially consider that. But Dunn's only on a 10-day. Sexton's out for at least another week, but that takes him through to the beginning of next week. So, look, I mean, potentially Dunn could not be on a team this time next week. If Sexton comes back and the Jazz decide not to pick up Chris Dunn, then yeah, I mean, he might not even be playing. So that's risky from that perspective. If we get word that they are going to sign Dunn to a rest of the season contract or something, then I'd consider it. But again, with Sexton coming back, Dunn's minutes are going to take a hit. So yeah, I don't know. It's a risky one.
Well, you mentioned that, yeah, Dunn might not be on the team next week. He signed that second 10-day deal on March 4th. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that this is his championship week. Does that change your perspective at all? Because for me, Dunn has done pretty much exactly what Fultz has been doing. He's getting you close to 2 steals a game. 13, 3, and 4 is his stat line in just 23 minutes. I don't know. For me, I think I'm going to swing for them and take that extra game. Does that change your opinion if this is championship week, or are you still going to stick with tried and true Markelle Fultz?
I'd probably still lean Fultz slightly, but yeah, as I said, I think if you could be sure Dunn was going to play, I think it's pretty comparable. Like, I think Dunn has been, as you said, doing a lot of what Fultz does. So yeah, I think it's slightly Fultz for me. But if you're more risky than me, if you're willing to take that chance, then Dunn would be fine.
All right. Let's get into some Wizards talk here. Are we holding Danny G and Grand Slam through this week in a points league? Any reason to drop these guys?
Gafford I'd be holding. Avdia, he's a bit more sort of on the fringe there. I think he's okay to hold if someone's available. Points leagues are a little bit easier because you can just have a look at what players are averaging. So if there's someone there that's averaging more, as we know, Avdia tends to play better when Beal's out. Monty Morris, I think, is doubtful for tonight, so that gives him a little bit more ball handling responsibility, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd be okay with holding them, but if someone's available, I'd be okay with dropping Avdia as well.
All right. Totally agree with you there. I think Danny G is a must hold. I think Avdia, yeah, he's take it or leave it. All right. Wish I would have seen this 9 minutes ago, and I would have told you 10 minutes ago to go ahead and make this move immediately. Toby was dropped. Should I drop Portis and pick up Harris? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. You should have done this, 10 minutes ago before I even saw the question. All right. Kingy, any different takes on this?
No. Long term, no. As we've said, Portis tonight could be pretty big with no Giannis and Drew. But in terms of rest of season, then yeah, I'd take Harris clearly over Portis.
All right, everybody's favorite player to hate on, John Collins. Is he a drop? What do you think, man? Are you dropping John Collins the last week? I'm looking here at his last 5 games, 22 minutes, 9 points, 2 rebounds, 0.2 blocks. Oof, it's been rough, man. Time to cut bait with Collins here?
Yeah, look, it's hard to say yes, but I think I have to say yes. I think he had 17 points yesterday, which isn't terrible, but he had nothing else, and his minutes are down. Sadiq Bey's cutting into his playing time. Collins was dropped in one of my leagues, and I saw him there and didn't pick him up. So again, I think if you do drop him, obviously we know what he can do, but we just haven't seen it. And if you need production now, then I think you might need to move on from him.
Totally agree with you. And so we mentioned Collins, 22 minutes, 9 points, 2 rebounds over his last 5. Sadiq Bey over his last 5, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1 steal. And let me see here. How many triples for Sadiq Bey here? He's been stroking them left and right, man, and they've been giving him big minutes here. So I think John Collins, it's donezo here. They're looking at Sadiq Bey. All right. From Arthur, should I pick up Slow-Mo over Tybull or Middleton? I don't think so. I think Anderson is the weakest of this trio. Is there anybody here that you would take Anderson over?
Not Middleton. I'd have Middleton over him. I think you could make a case to have him over Thibault. Thibault's been pretty good in his new role. He's playing a lot of minutes, but his value is really reliant on those defensive stats. Whereas Kyle Anderson will get you more assists and rebounds and some threes, does a little bit more. So I think depending on your build, you could go either way there. Like if you don't need steals or blocks, then I'd go Anderson. But if you're really desperate for defensive stats, then I'd go Thibault.
All right. I like this one here. I have RJ Barrett, Mark Williams, and DSJ in my points league, and they play 2 games. Who should I? This is an interesting one, man. So, my initial reaction is you got to keep Mark Williams, and Dennis Smith is the drop. But I don't know. Is Dennis Smith the drop compared to RJ Barrett? I mean, Barrett scores a good bit, but he racks up turnovers. He doesn't get you much with the defensive stats. Smith can rack up some defensive stats. He gets assists, rebounds. Barrett is essentially a points guy. I mean, so we're not concerned about his field goal percentage in a points league, but I mean, that's all he's doing is scoring. He gives you nothing else anywhere else. I mean, last night, huge game for Barrett, but it took him 50 minutes. Or 2 nights ago, took him 50 minutes in double overtime to give you anything. It took him that to give you 29 and 11. Emmanuel Quickley's been cutting into his workload, understandably, because Quickley is right now the better player, in my opinion. So for me, I think it'll be Barrett. What do you think here? These guys are all fairly close, right?
Yeah, they are. They are actually. If it was a category league, I'd definitely say Barrett. Points format. Yeah, I mean, Barrett is a lot better in a points format, but his minutes have been trending down a little bit. As you said, Quickley's been playing really well and has been sort of running with the starters a bit more. So, yeah, look, it might be Barrett or Smith, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe I'd lean Smith slightly in a points format as the drop, just because I think Barrett, like in 20 minutes, he could still put up 18 points and 5 rebounds or something, whereas Dennis Smith might only get you sort of 6 points with a few, I don't know, seven assists and a steal or something like that. So, yeah, I think it's pretty close. Mark Williams I'd be holding, and then, I think you could go either way with Smith or Barrett.
All right. More Hornets talk. A lot of buzz around. Who would you drop first during the playoffs if it comes down to it? Scary Terry or Dinwiddie in a 9-cat head? I'd be dropping Dinwiddie if I had a gun to my head and I had to make that Dinwiddie.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Rosie, like with ball out, Rosie's going to be doing a lot, but his percentages have just been terrible. Dinwiddie's been decent since coming into Brooklyn. Probably still Dinwiddie for me, I think slightly. It's close, but I think Dinwiddie.
Okay. So, going off of that, is Baywatch a 12-team points guy? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, is there any reason not to add this guy in a 12-team points league?
No, I think I'd be okay to take a chance on him. Quinn Snyder seems to like him. As you said, they're going with him over Collins. So yeah, I think so. I think if he's going to be getting you, whatever you said he was getting, 13 to 15 points, a few rebounds, a steal, he's probably getting close to 3 threes. So yeah, no, I'd be okay to take Bay there.
All right. Also, what do you guys think about holding the Clippers front court, both guys, and Zach Collins, who all have 2 games this week in a points league? I'll be honest with you, Plumlee to me is the best option of this group, just because he can give you. I mean, he can at least rack up some assists, and he and Zubats have been kind of splitting minutes here recently. But I don't think you necessarily need to hold on to any of these guys. Collins is a clear drop after coming out with a quote unquote undisclosed injury. But Plumlee, I'd rank them Plumlee, Zubats, and Collins, but I don't think any of these guys need to be held.
No, I don't think so. As you said, yeah, Collins, like they probably want to get a good look at Bassie and see what his role might be long term. Yeah, I don't think any of these guys are sort of priorities. I think you could stream in and get a lot more value.
Kind of a broad question, but who's your end of season waiver wire hero? I don't know. I think my first reaction to this is going to be Charles Bassey. Who is yours?
I'm just having a look at some of my rosters to say I have so many teams. I'm just trying to think who I've sort of picked up off waivers this season. I guess looking at the season as a whole, someone like DeLon Wright has been pretty good for me in a few leagues. Let me check. Melton was good for a while. The Anthony Melton, he was a nice pickup, but then he's sort of cooled off. Dante DiVincenzo has been good over the last month as well. Look, I mean, a guy that I drafted in a lot of spots, and then I think I probably dropped him maybe a little bit too hastily, but Jalen Williams has been very good. I mean, he's out today, which is really unfortunate because I've got him in a couple of playoff teams. But he's been incredible the last month. I don't know, no idea what his ranking is. I know he's inside the top 100 now for the season, and I know over the last week he's like a first round player or something. I'm just having a look. Here we go. So over the last 2 months, he's the 25th best player. So that's pretty good if you got him off waivers.
Absolutely. So yeah, if we're talking about just season as a whole, I think that's a great. All right. Let's see, who else do we have? Okay, here we go. This is an interesting one. Kingy, I'll toss this one to you. Oh, hey, look, it's from friend of the show, Matt Lawson. Gentlemen, in your fantasy basketball career, who is the most random player that helped you win in the fantasy playoffs? Who are we going with here?
Man, I don't remember what happened last week, let alone what happened years ago. Look, I know there was that year, what was it, 2 years ago when Kelly Olynyk was playing for Houston and was like a first round player randomly for a month or so. I know I had him on a championship team that year. I do remember back when I first started playing fantasy in a league that had double-doubles and tech fouls, I think. And I traded Brandon Jennings to get David Lee. And that's when David Lee was playing for the Warriors probably and got double-doubles basically every night. So I remember back then he helped me win a lot of matchups in that league. I don't know. What about you? Can you think of anyone?
No, I'm trying to remember. I'm just thinking back to last season. I was able to snag Drew Eubanks last season, and he had a really good run towards the end of the year. So I don't know how random, Drew Eubanks is, but I would say that's fairly random. If we're just going back a season ago, he was definitely big at the end of the year, and I was able to scoop him up. All right. And Matt, look, I don't know if this is a wedding picture or what, but it looks like he's wearing looks like he has a full suit on here. Very handsome pic, Matt. Very debonair from you. Since no one want to bring it up, what are your thoughts on this Jaws situation? We won't get too heavy into it. We can just give a quick take here, but I think from a fantasy perspective, obviously Tyus Jones, you must add him. And from a real perspective, if I'm his teammate, I'm furious with him for the decisions because it's going to be real tough to stay afloat in the Western Conference. This is a very, very stacked Western Conference.
Yeah, much the same as you. I mean, I'm not going to go too much into it. It's got to be frustrating for his teammates. And look, I mean, it's good that he's taking some time off and he's going to have a look at things. And I mean, living in Australia, I probably have a different perspective just because of the whole gun law thing. I know over there that they're a lot more accessible and easy to have, whereas over here it's impossible. So just simply with my Australian hat on, it's hard to fathom this kind of thing that this would happen, but I know it happens. So yeah, look, it's unfortunate. Hopefully he gets he's surrounded by the right people and can change a few things and moves forward. And from an NBA perspective, hopefully he's back before the playoffs because the Grizzlies have a good squad and I think they can make some noise. But obviously the priority here is Ja and his mental health and his well-being and all that sort of thing.
All right. We will go for one more question here. Actually, it looks like this one's from Brian as well. Then this is going back to the Tobias Harris question. Would you use your number 4 waiver claim on Tobias or wait till he becomes a free agent? I'm in first and have a bye week next week. Use the waiver claim. You can't take it with you after the season's over. Use that sucker up, man. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, I'm okay with using that. Especially, there's only a few weeks left. So what are the chances that you get to use it anyway? So
let's go for a couple of more quick ones, and then we will sign off here, Kingy. Thoughts on Tari Eason rest of season? Yeah, every fantasy analyst's favorite sleeper going into the season here. What do you think about Tari?
Look, he's been excuse me, he's been good. Finally doing what we sort of were hoping he was going to do 2 months ago. Just having a look here. So top 55th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. It's really about the minutes. We know what it is with Eason. It was whether or if and when he was going to get the playing time that we wanted him to. And if you look over the last, 5 games, he's played at least 25 minutes in every game, at least 30 in 3 of those 5 games. I'm still not convinced just because Silas has been so bad as a coach and the rotations are terrible. And I'm not 100% convinced, but I think based on what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, he has to be rostered and you just hope that common sense prevails and he plays 30 minutes a night.
Yeah, I agree with you here. Yeah, last 5 games, 29 minutes a game, 16 and 8 with 1.4 steals and 1 block. As you mentioned, this has never been a question of his talent or his efficiency. This has always been an issue of, is he going to get enough playing time? And so if we can see minutes, 25 to 30 minutes a night, he's going to crush it rest of season, right? Anything fewer than that, and he's going to be a fringe guy. All right, just a couple more here. Should we hold on to Tillman even with Steven Adams back? No. Kenny, I'll throw it to you.
Probably not. I mean, you could hold on to him for one game if you wanted to, because Adams might come off the bench for the first game, or he might only play 18 minutes or something. So, yeah, look, you might be able to squeeze another 1 or 2 games out of him, but yeah, once Adams is back, I wouldn't be holding Tillman.
Right. And Admiral Nita, this will be our final question of the NBC Q&A season here. Drop Dennis Smith Jr. or Kyle Anderson to bring Chris Middleton off of IR. I think I prefer Dennis Smith rest of season to slow-mo. What say you, Kingy?
Yeah, I probably prefer Kyle Anderson as we sit currently, but as we've said, Cat could come back at some point, which that's going to immediately cut into Kyle Anderson's playing time. So I think Dennis Smith is probably the safer of the two to hold. But as of sort of right now, for say the next week, maybe I might lean Anderson slightly. I just really like what Anderson brings in terms of that he can contribute across sort of 4 to 5 categories, where I think Dennis Smith is more just assists and steals, and that's it.
All right, so that will do it for us today, guys. I just want to say thank you so much to everybody that has tuned in all season to ask your questions and to be with us every week as we talk hoops. It's been an absolute pleasure for me in my first season doing these weekly Q&As for NBC. And I hope to be back doing them again next year and bringing you guys plenty of good guests, which will, of course, include the incomparable Adam King. Adam, thanks for joining me once again, man. Please tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, where we can follow your work, and what you've been up to.
So Twitter, at AdamKing91 on Twitter. We spoke briefly. I put up a poll last night, which I thought was interesting. Looking ahead to next season, who would you prefer, Shea or Halliburton? And I know you would go Halliburton, so we don't need to discuss that. Yeah. I thought Shea would be leading, but Halliburton's actually got about 60% of the votes, so that's interesting. And I think if we wanted to talk about our favourite player this season, or favourite fantasy player, or most exciting, I think it's Halliburton for me, because when we came into the season, obviously you hyped him up more than anyone, and you had him as I think you had him inside the top 5 in terms of projections. And he hasn't been quite that good, obviously. I think he's top 10. But I think we sort of came into the season and we thought, he could be a first-round player, but we'd never seen it. So there were question marks around, can he actually do what we think he can do? And I think he's done it and more consistently. And probably his scoring has been really surprising to me. Like, I think that was the area of his game where we thought, he might only get 16 points or 18 points. But as you said, last night he had, I didn't look at the final box score because I was against him, so I didn't want to know. But I think he had high 30s or 40 points. So he's been incredible. That was a bit off topic, not really relevant, but what are we doing at the moment? I'm just working my way through interviewing analysts. So I spoke with you last week. I'll have Josh coming on in the next few days, hopefully. And then I've got, as I said, about 20 other analysts lined up. So we'll be doing those over the next couple of months. Matt Lawson, speaking of Matt Lawson, and I will be launching a Dynasty show probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think, once fantasy playoffs start wrapping up. So we'll be doing a Dynasty. Well, he'll be talking Dynasty, and I'll be asking some noob questions because I'm not that good at Dynasty yet. And I'm probably going to have some player ranks for next season coming out in the next month. So very, very, very early, but I like player ranks, so I'm going to put some together.
Very exciting stuff. 40 points, 16 assists last night for Tyrese Halliburton. Just absolutely filthy stuff from Tyrese Halliburton. And, he's ranked 8th right now in per-game value, so didn't quite hit the top 5 that I was hoping for, but we'll chalk it up as an excellent season. So yeah, happy to listen to your tangent on Halliburton and give him some much needed love. But yeah, so everybody make sure you check out Adam at Fantasy Basketball International. They're doing some really cool stuff over there, especially if you're into Dynasty. That is the place to go. Kingy, thanks again for joining me, man. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon, and we will be back on this show together next season, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right.